I'm hoping that we are recording right now. We'll have to see. All right, so this, I will be very quick with this stuff, okay? And then this screencast would be one of those that gets put onto It's Learning. So if you're gone or you missed something or you wanted anything like that, okay? All right, so the 5 properties that you should have written down on so that would have been station number 1. This would have been station number 1. The 5 properties are the commutative property, which there are 2 forms then of the commutative property. There's an addition form and there's a multiplication form. Okay? What does the commutative property basically tell you? What does that tell you in mathematics? Commutative and associative properties tell you one basic thing. So it tells me that order doesn't matter, right? Yeah. Commutative and associative properties tell me that order doesn't matter. Commutative is just for one, associative is for multiples. Okay? But it doesn't matter what order I add them in. It doesn't matter what order I multiply them in. I'm going to end up in the same spot. Okay? You will hear me say numerous times this year that there is more than one way to get to Mosinee. Okay? Right? Okay. So you could take 39, or you could go out to Marathon and come in on 107, right? Or you could go on KK, or it's KK, yeah. All right. Associative, same thing. Identity property. Now I got to figure out how do I? Okay, learning stuff here, trying to figure stuff out. Oh, it's on this side. There it is. Okay. Identity property says that we have something out there called the additive identity, which is 0. If you add 0 to something, it doesn't change. If you multiply by 1, it doesn't change. Okay? So that's a multiplicative identity. Okay? Inverses, if you add inverses together, you get the additive identity. If you multiply inverses together, okay, you get, oops, that's not right. This should have been A over here. That shouldn't have been negative A. That should be A to the negative 1 power. There we go. Now we're talking. Okay. All right. And then the last and most important property is the distributive property. Okay. What's outside the parentheses has to go into all of the terms inside of the parentheses. Okay. So we're all on the same page there now. Difference between an expression and an equation. What's the big difference between an expression and an equation? The equal sign. Okay? Expressions are just that. They're just an expression. Okay? You can't do anything with them other than simplify them. All you can do with an expression is you can combine like terms. Okay? Because there's no 2 sides to the equation, or to the 2 sides to it. It's only one single solitary side, so you can just mold it and shape it. That's it. An equation has an equal sign, and those can be solved. I can solve it for x, or I can solve it for y. Okay? Whichever variable I have, I can solve that for that one. Okay? So that's the big difference. Okay? Some key vocabulary that I asked you to define. A power, we call that an exponent. Okay? That's the number it's raised up above. Okay? Variable is a letter that represents a value. Okay? We commonly use that in algebra. A term is a part of an expression or an equation, and they're separated by plus or addition signs, subtraction signs, or equal signs. So that if I were to write down here, if I were to write blue, if I were to say 3x plus 7 equals 9, I write an equation like that, okay? 3x is a term. 7 is a term. And 9 is a term. Okay? So those are the three terms to that equation. Okay? It's all the different parts. Okay? Coefficient is just the number then in front of a variable, and you've seen that many, many times. Okay? Then I believe we went on to, this is now station number 2. So we had to evaluate those 5 different ones. So the first one is 81. The second one is negative 81. The third one is 81. The fourth one is negative 27. And the fifth one is negative 27. Any questions on those 5? Dave?
Isn't it positive because you're multiplying, or is it only if you multiply 2 numbers?
Nope. Well, see, so what B is really saying here, B is really saying negative 1 times 3 to the 4th. Because it's different than C. C has the negative sign is included in the underneath the power. On B, this power is only controlling just what's right in front of it, which is just the 3. It's not controlling the negative sign. Okay? That's the most common calculator mistake that you can make. Okay? Because you're going to want to square, let's say, even if it was negative 3 squared, you're going to want to square negative 3. And so you type in your calculator negative sign 3 squared, and it gives you up negative 9, and you roll with it. But negative 3 times negative 3 is positive. It's all about the PEMDAS, the order of operations. Okay? All right? Plugging and chugging, evaluating those expressions. So basically all you're doing in the first one was you were substituting, or you're putting 3 in for x and then doing the math associated with it. You should have gotten 33. When you put in negative 2 in for m in the second one, you should have gotten negative 2,209. Okay? Questions on those two? Okay. Evaluating the expressions at the top, which was also part of station number 2. When you evaluate that one, the first one you should have gotten 7. When you evaluate the second one, you should have gotten negative 7. And when you evaluate the third one, you should have gotten 15. Any questions on those 3? Good? Okay. All right. Station number 3 then had add some parentheses to make that a true statement. So if I add parentheses in those 2 spots, this gives me, because then if I'm thinking PEMDAS again, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Okay. So I do parentheses first, okay? Well, inside this parentheses, then this one here would become 25 minus 7, which is 18. inside this one here, that would be 3 times 2, which is 6. So then this becomes 18 divided by 6. And I do that first because dividing comes before addition in PEMDAS. 18 divided by 6 is 3. 4 plus 3 is 7. Simplification, like combining like terms, you should have gotten 4x cubed plus 13x squared minus 4x for the first one, and negative 7x squared minus 20y for the second. Okay. Questions on those? Easy, easy, easy. So, at the bottom of that page that I have for you then is this homework assignment. This homework assignment is section 1.2. It kind of combines the stuff from section 1.1 in with it, so I think it's a good representation of it, and it will be due on Monday. Okay? One other thing that I ask when you are giving me homework, it helps me if you put the section of that homework on the paper, okay? Because it helps me to figure out which one you're talking about. You don't necessarily have to put down the page number and all of the problems unless you want to, but for sure you need, so on your paper then, on your paper, you would want preferably up here your name, your mods, remember that's your Monday mods, and what section the homework is. Okay? That's how I would want that to be done. Okay? Now let's see how I can stop this.